Björk, and you're listening to 89 FM, the Radio Rock.
Fala galera, beleza? Eu sou o Wendell Correia e hoje eu vou conversar com a Björk, a atração do Primavera Sound São Paulo. Ela toca no dia 5 de novembro, a 89 é a rádio oficial do Primavera Sound São Paulo. Ela vai falar sobre isso, claro, sobre o Brasil, sobre o novo álbum que ela acabou de lançar chamado Fossora, tudo isso com exclusividade para a Rádio Rock. A câmera dela vai estar desligada, mas o que é legal é o conteúdo nesse bate-papo exclusivo com a Björk para a Rádio Rock.
Hi, how are you?
Very good.
Where are you now?
I am in Iceland.
And talking about the new album that is coming up, congrats for that, Fossora.
Thank you very much.
You say each album always starts with a feeling that you try to shape into sound. And this time on the earth, you digging my feeling on the ground that became Fossora. How was the process of writing and recording this album?
Well, I think because we were in pandemic, so I was like many people now are all coming with books and films and albums that they did that they had time to do now. So I think I also enjoyed this very much, to be here for 2 years without even going to the airport. So there was a lot more time to land and to shoot down routes and to kind of relax and to hang out with friends and go to a local cafe and cook for each other and relax. So this kind of energy is quite good for music writing, because if you are long in one place, you end up coming with some sort of answer to the space you are in. Sometimes when you are touring and you're going from place to place to place to place to place to place, you don't have time to land and to write a song, or to react to the place, because you're going to the next place before you can even react. So this is perfect for musicians, and I really enjoyed. I actually allowed myself to write slower than I normally do. I would meet with the engineer I was working with maybe only like twice a week or something. I mean, it wasn't planned. It was very spontaneous, which is also a luxury. But you normally, when I'm working, I will work maybe every day or not every day, but 5 days a week, or be doing like a lot of other things, like touring or being in airports or just a lot of other stuff. And now all I was doing was just being a human being more, and being reminded to my connections with friends and family and loved ones, and then maybe just writing music maybe twice a week or something for just few hours. So I think in this sense it was more relaxed and more what the songs that came out of it, I think, had more deeper roots and deeper, like they weren't like rushed through, and I had also time to give each song what it wants. Like, for example, songs like Free Fall, they started maybe with being, a woodwind song, and then in the end I waited, and then in the end I was like, come on, this is a string song, don't be so stuck in your concept, just give the song what it needs. And so I think the album benefits from these moments where I had a lot more time and I was a lot more relaxed when I made the decisions.
And what usually come first, lyrics or melody, or both?
I think for me it's more the music. The melody comes first. More often, yes. Sometimes a lyric and everything will come at the same time. It's not often for me, but yes, overall the melody always comes first for me.
And Fossora is a word you made up, the feminine of Fossor, that means digger, delver, ditcher. How did you develop this name, and why is the name of the album? It's also the name of a track of the album.
Yeah, I felt this was a good word that describes sort of what happens to all of us 7 billion people who are together in the pandemic. just being in one place for 2 years and not moving. It is sort of, you dig yourself into the ground, and you sort of are just with very few people a lot. So it's more, you're more sort of compressed or solid as a human being. And I wanted to find a feminine word for, it means the digger, or the one who digs into the ground. I first was thinking about the word fossorial, which is more like about all animals who have like lizards or moles or other animals that they have a claw that they can dig themselves into the ground. So they are called fossorial animals. But I thought that was even a little bit too complicated. So I just like the word fossora, both how to say it, but also in Icelandic, foss is waterfall. So it is a very sort of positive word and very sort of open, as sonically, how to say it,
Great. I didn't know all the meanings of this word. So, was the first song you written for the album the song Fossora?
No, it was actually the last song. Usually the first 2 years when I'm writing music, it's I'm just more free, and I just do whatever I want to do. I'm not trying to be so conceptual. I'm just sort of seeing what's in there. And then it usually after 2 years, I sit down and maybe listen to everything I made in one go. And then I pretend I'm someone else, and I try to figure out like, oh, okay, this is this kind of album. And then I will work to try to make it cohesive. And then actually last song I finished singing and writing the lyrics for was Fossora. And because I felt the album needed a title track and also the lyrics to have explain this whole theme about the mushrooms, to have the language of fungi and mycelium and everything, to have that also on the album,
You didn't also talk about the different kinds of bass on this album. 6 bass clarinets on the song Aeropos. How was working on bass on this album specifically?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was like a fun game to try to arrange for like 6 bass clarinets and to really make rhythms and patterns. And also Atopos is a song where I was trying to take it as far as I could to make it percussive and rhythmic and more sort of masculine. And then other songs like Victimhood, where I was trying to be more soft and gentle and more melancholic or sad. And then maybe songs like Fungal City or Fossora, where I was trying to be more happy or more playful. So I wanted to try to get several colors, and I was trying to get as many different textures from bass clarinets as possible. And we went to my cabin here in the mountains in Iceland and in the winter in COVID, and rehearsed a few times so I could experiment with different octaves and different, like, to learn how, what worked better, what was the stuff that worked best,
And also your visual art on your songs is really important to you. You say like your art cover is like homemade tarot cards. For this specific album, how was working on the art cover of Fossora?
Yes, I usually know sort of the color palette and then the overall theme. And then it's like solving a murder mystery to sort of figure out. I knew the position I should be on the cover, like that I should be crouching, because this gives like the body more like earth connection. And also my hair would be like mycelium hair, like the nerve system going into the ear. And it's interesting once we have different clues like this, we experiment. And I was working in Iceland, of course. So I worked this time around with just the Icelandic team of people, Icelandic photographer called Viðar, and also James Murray, who I worked with for 13 years. He's like my visual collaborator. He lives in Iceland now, has lived for many years. So it was sort of like my Icelandic team that we did. We worked on the visuals together.
It is beautiful. And talking again about the first track, Atopos, it's a Greek word, right? It means strange or out of place.
Yeah, I think I was reading a book by French philosopher Roland Barthes, and he explains this word atopos as the other, or it's actually, I was reading a lot about it online, and what most people agree with, that it is very, very difficult to explain the meaning of atopos, but the person who does it best is Roland Barthes, but it takes him 3 pages to describe it. So I thought that was quite funny. But I think the meaning that I took out of it was both on a political and personal level. When you have the other and you have a choice, are you gonna see what you have in common with the other, or are you gonna see how you are different to the other? So it's a choice. And I was writing the song while Trump was still a president and before the second election that he lost in. Well, maybe not, but that's another story. So I think I was very interested in how all around the world there is a bigger gap between left and right in politics, and maybe also between men and women or in couples. So on a personal level, the lyric is about, are we going to look at, as a couple, are we going to look at what we have in common and focus on this? Or are we going to start talking about where we are different, And it's a choice, like which way you want to go. And just being aware of that it is a choice, And for me, of course, like everyone, I'm most interested in environmental things. And for the left and right to do something about the environment, we have to forget about the differences and just work together as a group. In the same way we did in the pandemic, I think humankind can work in a very dramatic way. All governments can be very quick if there is an emergency, like in the pandemic, and make big changes. And maybe I'm secretly hoping that, well, not secretly, I am hoping that that governments work as quickly in the environmental problems as they did in the pandemic, and rather look at each other and just see more what we share, rather than looking at the differences between each other in politics.
Yeah, you just answered what was going to be my next question, because of the verse. Are these not just excuses to not connect, or differences are really relevant, or unity is stronger than us? Is exactly about is you're talking about, right?
Yes, I was trying to find words to express this.
And talking about the second track of you just released it. What kind of love and what means the song for you?
Ovule, yes. Yes, I think for me, when I wrote Atopos and Ovule, I kind of wrote them around the same time, and they were almost like yin and yang, or like one feminine, one masculine of the same idea. Ovule is more feminine or sensual, erotic, more about feminine, open love, where you are seeing what you have in common and wanting to protect that, and willing to work out shadows or problems to protect ideal love. So yeah, Ovule is a love song, very much a romantic love song about like a meditation, how to keep yourself open to that.
And do you have a favorite track on the album?
No, I never have that. I think for me, I like the diversity of the songs. When I have playlists in my own home, the different music I listen to, it is slow songs and fast songs and happy songs and sad songs, and I like all kind of songs, you know, contemporary, classical, and pop songs, and I like music to give me all kind of different things. So I hope my album carries the same diversity for other people.
And the sixth track, sorry my accent, I hope I can say it right. Fagorel e Fortune. I said it right.
One more time.
Fagorel e Fortune is the number 6.
You are very brave. I think you are the only journalist that tried to say this.
Sorry, my accent.
No, you get 5 stars. Icelandic is very difficult. It's fagurt í fjörðum. Yes, it's. I was experimenting singing several folk songs in Icelandic, and I think this song kind of worked best. I'm not sure exactly. I think it was more like a musical decision. Also, I felt the album needed something like this, especially after the 2 songs about my mother, and somehow to have this almost like a sorbet that clears the palate straight after. Also, it's good, you know, the poem is written by this 17th century poet called Björk, who she was quite a feisty woman. So I think it sort of seemed to be everything to be right about it. Also in the lyric, it's I don't know, you can actually Google it. I did see it online. Somebody has translated it. It is like a very strange joke. The lyric, it's very Icelandic sense of humor. It's very like sort of dark sense of humor, making fun of the Icelandic winter. So I kind of liked it. It's kind of, and also it's quite short, so it's almost like a haiku poem or something, which I like.
I want to talk to you about Brazil. What are your memories from Brazil? You've been here before.
Yeah, I love it so much. It's one of my favorite countries to be in. I obviously love the music, and I DJ a lot of beats from Brazil from last few years. It's very exciting period, and what I remember, I have many memories. I was mostly in Rio de Janeiro, like on the beach. Sorry, it's very typical, but I loved that. And I also went to this tropical island I was invited to, which was amazing. I also spent, maybe the longest I've been in Brazil was in January 2004, where I spent a whole month in Salvador, where they were preparing for the carnival. So I was listening to all the rhythms and to the people preparing, because each god has a different rhythm. So this was very exciting for me with you know, the more Afro-Caribbean side of carnival. It was very exciting time for me.
And you are coming again, Primavera Sound São Paulo Festival. You're headlining with Arctic Monkeys. What we can expect for your show, your performance here?
I'm doing a different thing what I normally do in festivals. I'm bringing, you know, I'm actually not bringing. I am performing with a local Brazilian orchestra and a collection of my songs. So it's similar to the show I did in on live streamed a year ago in Iceland. So it's actually I will have no visuals, so it's more what do you say, unplugged. And it's sort of the first time I bring this to South America, so I'm quite excited about it. I'm hoping we are still trying to get cornucopia to South America, which is Utopia and Fossora, which is more like a digital theater, which has a lot of visuals and musicians. We are still working on this, as this is very complicated to bring, especially after COVID. I think this, it's a long story, so I cannot promise it, but we will do our best. But that would, of course, be my favorite if we would also bring cornucopia to Brazil.
That's great. And we're running out of time. My last question would be about your podcast. How has been talking about your albums again, the feeling of talking about it, and how has been the experience of having a podcast now?
Yes, I did enjoy it. It was, I was approached by several people to either do book, like autobiography, or to do like a documentary film. And for me, it was just not right. Or maybe I will do it when I'm, 90-year-old or something, But I did notice this good thing that happens when you're around 50 is your brain changes, and suddenly you don't see your life in a linear way, but your brain starts to throw out all the stuff you don't need. And so to make room for more music and more stuff, more experiences. So I decided to do this as a conversation to friends before I would forget it all. So I am happy that it's there, so I don't forget everything. I think for me, like when I see documentary about musicians or autobiography, like books, it's everything is about trying to make the musician into this superhero or like icon or something, and I find this very boring. I think I wanted rather to talk to my friends, so it's more like a conversation, and it's more about our mutual love of music or lyrics. So it's us talking about something that we love, rather than somebody admiring an icon or something, which I think is more 20th century. It's more sort of, it's dead. I don't think it survives anymore. I think that's why one of the reasons why podcasts are so huge is it's dethroning the icons, or it's taking people away from hierarchy or pedestals and bringing people all down to the ground on the same level as human beings. And I prefer this format.
Perfect. And last thing I want to ask, you invite your fans to be on Primavera Sound here in São Paulo.
Oh, I'm just looking forward to seeing everyone, and I'll be there with local Brazilian strings singing a collection of all my songs, and I do hope you will enjoy it.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Björk. I really appreciate it. Thank you for our time, the interview. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you in Brazil soon.
Thank you.
89, a Rádio Rock.